understanding the power of the black dollar. You know, we just had Blackout Tuesday, but we understand, you know, African Americans control, you know, trillions of dollars in the American economy. So, Will, how would you say that black people understand money?
You said economy, so that gives a more like a general kind of thing. The way I look at it is personal finance. You have to be responsible for your own business. Your household is your business. So before you start trying to start a business or whatever, you should take care of home first. And you got systems to do that. And that's why I wrote the book that I wrote, Wealth Over Riches, is because I wanted to help people understand that your household is a business and you need to take care of that. And if you're not taking care of that, like what's the point of trying to make more money because you're just wasting it at that point. And if you understand how to set up your business at home, sky's the limit, man.
It's good. Maybe how would you think big help there?
I mean, honestly, I think that in and of itself is a gold mine. You know what I mean? I think the opportunity to, and maybe even like what we was talking about a little bit earlier, people might just be getting ahead of themselves. You know what I mean? I want to be a millionaire before I master impulsive buying. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. You're, as a person who's oriented that way, a person who's a slave to their desires, you're never gonna make enough money to make $1 million. You know what I mean? You're gonna spend $1 million before you can keep $1 million. And so I think if I had to add anything to that, or kind of sub idea, is that in order to master your household, you have to master yourself first. You know what I mean? So before you can participate in the economy in a meaningful way, your household has to be in order, and before your household has to be in order, you got to be in order. So I think understanding how you approach resources and how you approach excess, especially because what happens is most people, I would wager, most people get into trouble when they have more than what they need. You know what I mean? People who have less than what they need tend to be able to do miraculous things with money. You know what I mean? You got to work with less than, them people make mountains move. So just, what do we do in situations when we have more than what we need?
James, why do you think black people spend a lot more than they save? Because as a culture, we're a bit, we consume a lot. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And we drive a lot of the dollars. That's why the economy felt it when we did our blackout. Right? We spend, even though we may not lead the pack in of salaries or whatever it may be. Like, you can have a cousin, we all know him. They may work at McDonald's or Burger King, but they're gonna have the J's to come out. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We spend more than we save. Why do you think that is
Well, I think that's a subjective thought, only because I think it's contingent on how you were raised.
Okay.
I think that many people who are raised with the idea of saving or idea of being frugal or as economical as possible, you have an understanding of keeping a amount or a baseline so that you are surviving. Most people, my main thing or motto is to give out of my overflow and out of my cup. So if I'm with the focus of surviving, then I can splurge. But then you have people who have a different mindset or have been brought up with the idea of if I do give out of my cup, then it'll always come back. So I think it's really contingent on your upbringing or your experience or your journey. Because with my experience or my journey, I was taught we don't have enough money to spend right now, or we have the money, but we're not spending it on that. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't a matter of, hey, let's get you a bank account like a bunch of my friends did as kids or as, high school.
You relate to your parents, right?
Right.
Okay.
Many of my peers in high school, they went and got cars, had the latest outfits, and they
Mom said we ain't ready for that.
Well, not so much we weren't ready for that. It wasn't a priority.
Right.
Again, it's contingent on the mindset of your mom and your dad or the person who's bringing you up.
So would you say your parents budgeted?
Yeah, they budgeted, but the point of budgeting was not so much to keep money so that they could spend later. The point was to survive.
Okay.
So again.
So that's a different perspective.
Right, exactly.
It's a different perspective.
Look, because I think you're hitting on something that's has magical potential. What your money is for, right, is a historical thing, right? We haven't always had the luxury of thinking about thriving. Mm-hmm. Right. That hasn't been our historical experience. Right. It may not be for a lot of folks now who are brown. That might still not be our our experience. You know what I mean? There are a lot of people, and you'll see like gurus who go in there and say, it doesn't matter where you come from, what you're dealing with, whatever, you could change your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're not accounting for. And Sean, you mentioned Nipsey earlier. Nipsey has a interview where he's talking about Maslow's kind of pyramid of needs. You know what I mean? And the physiological needs, and when people don't feel safe and secure, warm, dry, have something to eat, you can't talk about being a millionaire. You know what I mean? When you don't know if your kid gonna eat. And so
I mean, that's I relate that to the analogy of like, they always talk about kids that come from a low-income area and how they do in school. Well, how can you focus on what you do in school if you ain't ate in 2 days? Right? It's like you have to. Sometimes you take care of the priorities. Like, how can you focus on making $1 million, but you miss your last 2 mortgage payments?
But on the contrary, you have kids, or you have success stories that do show that even in the midst of that adversity, they did sustain, they did persevere, they did excel. So again, it's really contingent on the beginning or the cultivation of what is important, what is a priority. And once you have that, that is the main focus. That's why it's important that in the development of children, that we start to instill in them at an early age how to develop themselves, how to be great people in the world. Not when, oh, you're a teenager. No, everything that you do, everything that you show a child is beneficial. It's very crucial to their upbringing. If I'm playing Monopoly with a 2-year-old, they're going to remember those pieces, and because they remember those pieces, they're going to remember those processes. They're going to remember, oh, I had to save my money when I was playing this game at the age of 7. That way they're knowing how to not just play the game, but also win.
Now, Rashad, based on what James was saying, what do you tell like a child when we're talking about money? Because I think we all are on the same page as that. It's very important that it starts whenever you're young. When you start understanding the concept of money at a very young age, not after you graduate from college at the age of 22 and it's like, I got this job now, I'm making this money, now I need to learn how to make a budget. Right. It's beneficial for you to be doing this for the last 16 years plus of your life, understanding the concept of money. What are the tools that you think you can teach a child that doesn't grow up in a conducive environment to understand this concept?
Well, going back to personal finance, right? So like if you've ever bought a home, right, they'll, if you're getting a loan from the bank, right, they'll, like if you ever going through a program or whatever, they'll show you how you need to like save your money in order to get, whatever. Because like they'll go into your, like if you go into your personal like checking account, right? Like for instance, with this whole spending piece, right? You'll eat out. Like if you literally pull up your budget and how you spent your money for that month, you'll literally see I went to Zaxby's, I went to Burger King, or whatever have you, or whatnot. Being responsible with that, number one. Like if you know that you need to like structure yourself to like spend this money, you have to model that, right? So for instance, with a small child, like if you're playing Monopoly with them, you can't just play Monopoly with them. You got to play real life Monopoly, right? So like you got to model what you're showing them. So if mom and dad got a house or whatever, and we're playing Monopoly, you also at some point bring them into your personal finance. Maybe not like the whole thing, but teach them how those steps were built. Because honestly, in my household, my mom just paid the bills because she was in survival mode. But if she showed me like, all right, this is how much I make a month, right? This is what we eat at home. This is the reason why I cook at home, because I save money for the month rather than going out, right? And show me how that's built. So when I started my business, like a grass cutting business, whatever have you, what do I need to save, and then what do I need to reinvest back into that business? So that personal finance piece is huge. But literally as adults, if you go into your spending account right now at the bank, you'll see where your money is. But most people don't want to do that because they just want to swipe. They just want to swipe. So what I'm saying is you gotta literally focus on that piece, but you have to model it for children because they only can do what you model for them.
And you want to say why people swipe, and it kind of goes back to what James said. A lot of us come from that thriving household. So as soon as we get money, we want to buy the things that my mom couldn't buy me. That's my first view of money was I'm going to buy the things that my mom can't buy me. In high school, I got my job. First thing I bought was some J's because my mom wasn't spending that money on that.
Right.
And so we got to go, that's the real answer to the question. That's why black people spend money, because we come from households that are barely thriving. Right. Going to your question about what would I teach my daughter, first thing is money is infinite. Right? If you have the mindset that you can make money, you can make money. So that's first. But be diligent with the money that you make. That's my biggest thing. And the cool thing about personal finance, again, it's personal. Everybody has different goals. Some people want to be millionaires. Me personally, I don't want to work. So I want to set up my lifestyle to where I don't have to work. And then that allows me to be more creative, do more things, give back without spending my time. I look at money as time, period. And that's what kids need to understand. Money equals time.
Right.
When you buy yourself time,
Yes.
you are free. That's my viewpoint on money. Period.
Sean.
Yeah, so like my view on money, I think money's a tool. You know what I mean? And I always think about books because the reason why I think about books so much is because people look like us, they'd be killed if they read books, right? So that's all I read. So like The Richest Man of Babylon, like he talked about literally like 7/10 go back to the house, 2/10 go to debt, right? And then 1/10 goes back, into savings. I think we start teaching those principles, to our kids, the whole game change. Also, you gotta look at money. I mean, also how people view money. People will spend $100,000 to go to UCLA, but won't spend $1,000 in a coaching program that can change their life. So that's how I look at it. What tool are you gonna use to invest?
And Rashad, you said something very important. You talked about how it was taboo to speak about money in your house. Your mom was
Absolutely.
paying the bills. I had the same experience.
Absolutely.
Paying the bills. It's grown folks' business. It's not you.
Right.
You're a child
Right.
in a child's place.
Right.
So that was my experience when it comes down to money. The whole goal was I'm going to take care of this household. You're a child. You focus on school and whatever it may be. How do we change that within our own families?
So look, Rashad, in my opinion, answered that question. But it comes down to personal responsibility and personal performance. You can't model for a child something that you don't do. You know what I mean? And so the very first thing that you got to do is you got to get good at it. I can't teach my kids how to make money. I don't make no money. Right? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's going to be super hard, for example, for my dad to come to me and say, look, son, this is how you make $1 million. Because I'm like, nigga, you're not $1 million. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have $1 million. So you can't tell me about $1 million.
Right.
But I can go to my daughter and say, look, this is how you turn 1,000 into 100 because I've done that. Right?
Right.
This is how you get up 30,000 this week. I asked on Instagram the other day, I was just curious. What would you do if you had 30? I had just done that the day before. I spent 30,000 the day before. I just want to know what y'all would do. I know how I'm gonna make that money. I made it before, and anybody I would talk to, from the modeling standpoint, I said earlier, just off camera, I wouldn't take financial advice from somebody who's not gonna show me their bank account.
Yeah.
I just want to see it. Show me what you got. Because if you're saying, look, bro, you can put up 1,000 and make 10,000 back, just show me the 10,000 deposit, and I'll give you the 1,000 right now,
But they're
right?
not gonna do that.
But they're not gonna do that. And so, to your point, Lott, I think modeling is the answer.
Yeah.
But I was just saying, it's so real that, like, I'm preaching wealth, right? You see, I don't got no jewelry on except for my wedding ring. And I don't wear it. I usually wear like a rubber band. It's like this is a mindset that I have.
Yeah.
So I want to preach that. And if I don't live it, nobody's going to listen to me. That's why I don't wear jewelry. I don't try to shine because I'm all about wealth. I know it's important for my next generation to have that because we didn't have that previously. And we talk about like socioeconomic things going on and why white people are ahead is because they built wealth over time. And a lot of that killed us was redlining, and we can go into that or whatever. But that's what killed us. And that's the biggest thing that we need as black people is continue to build a wealth and stop buying things that like really don't have no values going into assets versus liabilities or whatever.
So I think too, what we got to really highlight is like even when we start talking about money, we have to show like a sense of empathy, right? We have to acknowledge the redlining. We have to acknowledge that we are 400 years behind, right? We have to acknowledge those things, not to create excuses whatsoever, but just to understand where you come from.
But I also think there should be a point of accountability
For sure.
in that, and I kind of wanted to
Accountability hurt them.
dive into what you were saying about, basically being an example or showing it, taking from someone else's their example, and if they can't provide the example, they should provide reason. But I agree with what you're saying, but I also think that when it goes back to the idea of investing black or Black Tuesday or whatever you want to call it, or these pop-up trends that are constantly arising throughout different years, or it's contingent on the latest tragedy or the latest hype. I think it's important that a group of entities starts where we need it to be, and it goes back to what you were saying regarding how we build from, if we're going to do something and make it great, then why don't we do it wholeheartedly or do it full out? So with the same idea of you know, we have HBCUs who are struggling or have HBCUs that don't have the proper funding. However, we have all of these wealthy alumni who went to these HBCUs, but then we don't inspire or tell. We have these alumni who tell their kids to go to other PWIs. So it's like you have a beginning where you did not have that much money, you did not have that much wealth, you struggled or you went through whatever you went through, and you became great through that situation or because of that situation, and now that you are great, you are not investing in your beginning.
Well, you know, I look at that as psychological warfare. You know?
Yeah.
I look at that as like psychologically, you're looking at money and you're looking at where you came from and you look at where you're going as completely, totally two different things.
Correct.
You're not connecting the dots that this HBCU made you and planted a seed in your mind of the person that you are. And that now allows you to understand money.
Right.
You know, you knew how it was to go to the Ram Shack and not, you know, have a declining balance and all these different things. You understood that, and the HBCU taught you those things, right? So,
or just even in that same point, maybe not even the idea of a declining balance. They may have taught you how to speak, how to write a proper paper, which allowed you to write a proper grant. You know what I'm saying? You literally got tools and resources from this institution, and you have not even brought in another bulk of students or a bulk of money or invested in it so that it stays within. So I think to say all of that, it's a big problem within our community, the Black community, that we do not let that decline. You know what I'm saying? We do not pull people up or put people on. We get great or become great, and then we look at the people who are around and say, why don't you become great? Instead of actually putting them in positions or putting them opportunities for them to succeed. Whether they fall, it's because you've done it and you provided it for them. And of course, my story ain't gonna be the same story as yours, but the opportunity that you provided for me, I have the chance, you know what I'm saying, to do right. A lot of people don't get a chance, and because they don't get a chance, it's because, their journey was different, because this, that, and the third, but if I can offer you that opportunity, you know what I'm saying, to do great, which of course you're doing with your book.
Let me add to that. So the psychological warfare is real. So like for instance, with me, everybody knows me, I love to drive cars, right? I love to like go and cop a whip, right? But where my mind shift changed is if you buy an Aston Martin, right? Everybody knows when you drive that car off the lot, it dropped, right? That price dropped.
Yeah.
But what happens, what I'm more concerned with is the whole, like if Kobe can get paid by the Lakers organization to play basketball, or if I can afford that car, who owns the dealership? So that switch in thinking is like that same 30,000 or whatever that, or 50,000 or 100,000 that you're gonna spend. Imagine if you could spend that same 100,000 and own the Aston Martin dealership and drive your Aston Martin for free.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? So it's but again, our minds are creatures of comfort in the sense that it doesn't know anything other than continuity. So whatever you've done over and over again, you're going to continue to do. But that psychological warfare, you have to switch the way that you think. But that's the hard part. Again, going back to self. Like, why do you spend this way? And are you willing to change? But that change in your mind has to happen. But are you willing to stick to how your mindset has now changed to think about it in a different way? You can still ball out, but that means that you're going to have to save your returns until later, right? Because you think different and you spend different when you're not in survival mode. You see what I'm saying?
And
So
to pick it up with that, this morning, Deepak Chopra said in my meditation that whenever you get consistent and stuck in doing the same thing over and over, the people that wake up and they feel like my life has no purpose, right? You can smash that down to a microcosmic level and say, looking at your finances and say, I'm doing the same old thing, I'm spending the same old money, I'm spending my money on this, I'm blowing my money, but when do you get to the point and say it's enough is enough? Right? And I feel like what even though we share different views on the foundational and where we started with money, I feel like we all are on the same page that there needs to be change. It has to start at a young age, right? Because we understand that psychologically what you learn at a young age follows you as you progress through adolescence and when you become a young adult. And I believe that we all understand that Black people need to do better in group economics, supporting Black businesses, but not just doing a fad on Blackout Tuesday, but for the rest of your life you need to be supporting Black businesses. Because we understand group economics and we understand where it would take us. in the future. So overall, wealth over riches. You understand? So, Will, to close it out for us, how would you elaborate on those 3 words? Yeah, because it's a powerful statement.
It's about balance, man. Like my whole book was about balance. So as black people, we still want to like buy things. We still want to shine. That's just our culture. Hip hop culture draws that in us. But it's the balance of I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna save and invest. I'm gonna build balance into my budget to where I could buy the things I'm really passionate about, the things I love to buy. If I still want to wear J's, I'm gonna buy them. But yeah, I'm still gonna put focus on investing. I'm not just gonna spend all my money. I'm not gonna invest all my money either, because then I'm not living life. I'm not happy. I'm just spending money for some rainy day that if I might not even make it to 60, 65 to actually spend the $1 million, $2 million that I saved. So you gotta build that balance in your budget. So when you're living life and still being aware of the risk that you're having with your money and being diligent with your money.
And that's how my boy different from Dave Ramsey, man.